On this episode of Buff's Garage, I'm doing some upgrades to Falconstein, and I'm going to make him roadworthy and take him on a trip. Woohoo! The last time you saw Falconstein, I took him out and played in the snow. But now I want to get him roadworthy and take him on a road trip. It's just a short trip. I want to find some new wheels for Falconstein because these others, well, they're just in bad shape. And I've got one tire that's not doing so good. So need to take it to the tire shop and maybe run a few errands and just do some shakedowns and see how he does. So stay tuned. I'm taking Falconstein to the next level. I'm Buff from Buff's Garage, and I'm here to talk to you today about my sponsor, Brunt Boots. Simply put, Brunt Boots are the most comfortable boots I've ever owned, and they're comfortable right out of the box. They're durable, waterproof, composite toe. These boots feature an oil and slip resistant sole, which has come in handy several times. As you can see, I'm wearing a 2-year-old pair of Brunt boots, no holes, no wear marks, and completely comfortable. Throughout my entire career, I've worn a lot of different pairs of boots, and most of them barely lasted a year. I'm telling you, these boots are the best boots I've ever owned, and the most comfortable. And if you wear boots a lot, you'll know that the cost of replacing boots is getting astronomical. Brunt boots are very affordable compared to others on the market, and with lasting durability and comfort right out of the box, you really can't beat the value of Brunt boots. And with Brunt boots, you get a risk-free trial. That's right, you can try the boots, and if you don't like them, you can send them back. But I'm pretty sure you won't, because Brunt boots are the most comfortable boots I've ever worn. And with free shipping, you really have nothing to lose to try out your new favorite pair of boots. And right now, if you click the link below, you get $10 off your order. I want to thank Brunt Boots for sponsoring this video. Now go out and get yourself your new favorite pair of boots. Don't mind the leaf blower. It's that time of year where everybody thinks they gotta be obnoxious. But I went to vacuum out this seat here, and this just kind of fell out. I'm gonna say years of rat mess and house and droppings rotted it out, and probably exposure to the outside. But it did in fact have a seat in it. So for those asking more about how this was a station wagon versus a Ranchero, this is one of the things. It did have this seat in there with the attachment mounts for it. Another interesting thing is this part of the vehicle, this cab, used to be red. You can see it here, here, and then at some point somebody masked it off and painted it white. And then somebody came back and painted it blue. And then of course they painted over this with spray paint black. And they painted over the dash black. Oh, the confusing things that went into this. And of course the floor's all patched together as it should be. Rusted through a little bit here. But I think I'm not going to be able to save the seat, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and see if I can't find another one. Because there's a guy over by Oklahoma City that's got a bunch of parts. But here's more of the Falconstein work. That one's backed out. You can see where they molded these two vehicles together. Okay, so the tailgate, parts of it are from the wagon, and the bed back here, actually I can't tell if this is Ranchero, because this is white that they painted over with the blue. So this body used to be white, and then they shot blue paint over it. This tailgate was red, so it was part of whatever the red vehicle was. The doors are red originally. I mentioned this before where they kind of cut this out to make the keyhole work, and I'm going to go ahead and fix all that. So I started pulling the knobs out to sand the dash down and redo it. But I wanted to show you guys that the car was red here, white back there. Yeah, it was several different cars, that's for sure. So I'm going to finish pulling this seat out, cleaning out all the mess, And maybe I can find a new one. That's pretty bad. Well, I've been patching up floors with a piece of fluorescent light shroud that I had left over from changing out the fluorescent lights in the shop. And, you know, I like to recycle. So I've just been zipping them in with self-tappers. I've got a big plate back here because it was kind of rotted out. And then a little one here, little one up there, and I'm going to make another one for up here on the firewall where they relief cut the firewall to fit the engine but then didn't patch it. Might have to do a little creativity on that one. Anyway, I've cleaned that up. I got this cheap stuff off Amazon, and it is a foil base on this side with kind of a little bit of a black insulation, and it is sticky, kind of like a Dynamat, but it's not a Dynamat. It's a little thicker. And as cheap as it was, and the fact that I bought it like 3 years ago, I figure it's just time to use it. Since the last Falconstein video, you guys have been sharing with me other Falconsteins that are out there in the world, which is lifted or four-wheel drive Rancheros. Some of them are legit Rancheros that are lifted, and some of them are actually Falcon cars. Yes, I know that Puddin had one. Now I have no idea what the link is right offhand where I got this off Amazon, but I'll try to find it in my past purchases, and if I do find it, you'll find the link below. Not bad. I like it. Now I did find carpet, and by that I mean I found a big rug that I had brought from my old house, and it was not considered an outdoor rug, but I'd used it outdoors, so it was pretty waterlogged. I let it dry, and then when I moved, I just kind of threw it into storage. It's kind of got a Southwest theme. Long story short, it's going to be my carpet. The insulation in place. Here comes the rug. If you guys don't like it, put something down below in the comments. But I will warn you, you have to understand I'm going for free or relatively cheap. So I'm reusing stuff that I already had. Carpet's expensive, especially form-fitted carpet for a Falcon, which wouldn't fit because they put the tunnel from the International Harvester in here. So no matter what, fitment's going to be an issue. It's already proven its durability by being an outdoor rug for a while, even though it's not an outdoor rug. It is rubber backed, but let's see if we can make it fit. It's not looking too bad, but I like the cost. It pretty much fits most of the cab here. And there is going to be a little left over that I could probably finish that, and then with the seat there, you'd never even notice it. Now, it wouldn't be much of a redo unless we also addressed the headlights. They didn't work. I checked the switch, and there was a blown fuse on the actual switch, and the 1960 Ford Falcons actually had a tiny fuse box mounted on the headlight switch. So got that replaced. Now we're going to have to check power to the headlight. But to do that, I need to get to the headlight, and with this fancy grille they put in here and the rectangle headlights, I'm going to have to disassemble a few things. Now, in looking at this, this is definitely custom made. It's one of a kind, I'll say that. They've got it bolted in from the bottom, so it might be a challenge to get out. I'm going to do a little bit more work to see if I can't get the grill out, and that'll give us more room to get into the headlights. We can check all the power and see what's going on with them. Well, they kind of used whatever hardware they could find, so I've got 4 different screws, not bolts, screws holding this thing in. Now this might be the moment that a few of you, oh wow. I'd say it was a little rusty in those things. But this might be the moment where a few of you would say, okay, now put a Ranchero grill in there. Well, here's the problem with that. Number one, I don't have one. Number two, this thing was custom made by a couple of guys who just wanted to build something cool. And it really follows the theme of Falconstein. So guess what? The grill stays. I may have to change the color. And just like I mentioned before, the cab of this thing was red. Doors, the dash, the cab. The body at some point was white, and this was white. Under hood is white, and the bed is white. The tailgate is red and blue. Then somebody came back, and I believe it was the last guy that owned it, primered it and painted it blue. He mentioned that in the video, that they came in and primered it and painted it blue. And they painted everything blue. It's just something special. So it stays as part of Falconstein. Now as for the headlights, as you can see, this one's no longer even attached. Got a heck of a zip tie going there. So I'll figure out how to remount that little guy. But first we need to see if we've got power. I always like to test the light first, but that's from the old school me that checked the bulb. Okay, no power there to any of them. I know I have power up to this wiring harness because I had it when we were at Dalton's Pole Barn Garage, because we used it to give us fuel pump power. So that leaves only one other thing. High beam. Well, I went to check power at the high beam switch and it fell apart. Not only is it frozen, but it looks like it's had about 20 years of rat mess that has corroded the entire thing. This happens to be a Ford high beam switch. Let me see what I got in my pile. I got one I bought for the Travelall that I did not need. We'll see if it'll work. No such luck. It's a completely different plug. Now this will work, I just have to figure out what wires are what. So let me dig into that and see what I can come up with. But without the proper switch, I just put a little jumper in place between the hot wire at the switch, the little foot switch, and the receiving light, whether it be low beam or high beam. It looks high beam to me. Let's test this side, make sure it works. Well, this socket still doesn't work, but obviously this one does. So I'm gonna have to rewire that one, probably replace it. And this one seems to be working. Don't fail me now. Yeah, this one's still in pretty good shape. That one's gonna need some work. Okay, well, we know that now, so I might as well pop that out, start dissecting it, cleaning everything up, and getting ready to refit this with new headlights. Well, since the original headlight plug basically disintegrated, I'm going to go ahead and rewire it. Let me see if I can show you. I found an old headlight plug in just my pile of extra stuff that I had, and it looks a little different than the original, but serves the same purpose without being disintegrated. I'm going to go ahead and solder it in here. I went ahead and tested my wire. So that gives me power to my headlight. So I matched up the old with the new, and one of them is actually green and corresponding in the same spot as the green one was on this one. The other one was red. This one is tan on the new plug, so we'll just make tan work. I went ahead and pre-soldered these two. I'm going to go ahead and solder up these. You can use a soldering iron, a soldering gun. I don't have either readily available, so I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of heat and put some solder on it. There we go. Need just enough solder to connect the two when you heat them up together. And when you get them hot like this, you're going to have to hold them just for a minute until they cool enough to stick together. Make sure they are stuck together. I give them a little pull, and I also put some heat shrink on there ahead of time. Make sure your wire cools before you try to put the heat shrink on, or it'll start shrinking on you before you get it there. There we go. You want to make sure you cover your connection well. And again, give it a little bit of heat. You can use a heat gun, a lighter. I just use this because it's handy. There, one completed connection. You can use solderless connectors. You can use all the different newfangled stuff that's out on the market. I grew up doing electronics. I really enjoyed working on TVs and VCRs back in the day. Car stereos were a lot of fun. And while everybody else was using butt connectors, I was making money by fixing their stereos when they came in, because most of them did not know how to crimp a butt connector. And then I would come back and I would generally just solder them together. A lot of these guys were heavy base heads, and solderless connectors don't hold up very well for that. So anything I could, I soldered, and anything else I crimped and soldered connectors. So I would actually have the ones without the plastic on them, and I would crimp them together. That's the physical hold together of the two wires, and then I would actually put solder on that connection as well, and then heat shrink over that. That worked the best. But there we go. We've got our new headlight plug soldered in. Now, if I really wanted to get fancy, I could put some split loom on it, but in 1960 they didn't even have split loom. They just used black tape. But at some point, yeah, I might put some black tape on that. Now, last but not least, the old ground wire right here was just screwed on with a sheet metal screw. So I'm going to pull that connection out, and rather than just glob onto this little tail that's already there, I'll just make a new one because I have plenty of wire on my new pigtail. So I'll just make a new solderless connector like that, and we'll put it in the same spot it worked before. Okay, we've got our ground or our headlight plug. Let's strip a little bit back. By the way, I love these strippers. These are really good. They work a lot better than these, but this works just fine for some crimping. I do have a crimper I like better. I just misplaced it. All right, I let a little bit stick through there, and then you want to match the corresponding size or gauge of wire to what you're crimping. Make sure it's good and snug on there. Give it a little pull if you need to. Last thing you want is for these to just pull right back off, and it happens. It happens way too often. With that connection made, I'll put our screw through the new ring, little eyelet, and back onto the core support. There we go. Now, when all things are said and done, I can take my new plug, put it through the socket, put my new headlight in, and it should be working. Let's go ahead and test our plug. There you go. We got power to the one we need power to. Now, like I said before, these rectangle or even the round lights that should have been here from the factory are pretty much available at every parts store, Walmart, Amazon, wherever. And they're not very expensive. But I thought I'd pay a little respect to the original Ranchero round headlight without actually putting round headlights back in. I like the rectangle, and it's going to work for this application. So I did a little upgrade by getting this set of True Mods headlights. They're for most applications. I'm sure they have the round ones too, but these are the rectangles. And the reason why I got them is because they have a halo in them. I figured that'll satisfy our need to have the round, while also giving me the simplicity of just mounting these in there as a rectangle. I believe it even has a turn signal with the halo. I mean, yeah, there's the wiring. I'll figure all that out in a minute. This should plug right in. There we go. There we go. I guess I got to take the plastic off. Otherwise that fits right on there. Screw that in. And now it's got a round headlight while fitting a rectangle bracket. And it's not really round, it's going to look that way kind of from a distance. I don't know, you tell me what you think. I'm leaving them in either way. Put your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's figure out what these others do. Well, this red wire gives us our halo. Let's see what the green one does. So hooked to a flasher, that's a turn signal. That's pretty cool. Alright, we'll have to remember that for later. So what do you think? Driving light on all the time, which was the halo, or not? Oh, did we test the headlight? Let's test the headlight. Woo! That's seriously bright. That's gonna spot some bogeys. Some local town folk with their torches and pitchforks. Falconstein's coming to get you. Well, okay, cool. Well, before I mount those pretty lights in, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up with some super clean. I need to take the whole thing to the car wash and just give it a good cleaning. But honestly, I'm afraid to get the interior too wet until I get some windows put in. But I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. Super clean will do the job of getting most of this gunk off. And then this core support needs to be black, I think. And then whatever we put in front of it will stand out. I'll be honest, I'm probably going to need a new radiator, so keep that in the back of your mind for later and remind me when it overheats. But I did go ahead and order a new water pump because this one's weeping. I also need to fix the power steering hoses and make sure my power steering system isn't completely shot. The other thing I have to deal with is this bumper. It's rusted pretty bad up here, as well as it's been brush painted on top of the chrome. I don't know how much of that I'm going to be able to get off and bring back chrome, but then again, we've got rust coming through. And it's not like I can just pop this bumper off because it has been welded to this big, huge piece of pipe. And then all of that is connected to the frame of the Ranchero Falcon, as well as the International Scout 2. So they're both integral to each other and to the vehicle. We need to go back and check our turn signal lights to see if they work as well. Probably not. I got a little Van Sickle tractor equipment and industrial enamel, satin black. I don't want it glossy, but I don't really care for flat either. This gives that kind of undercoating look where it's there, you see it, but it's not overwhelming. You might ask yourself, why haven't you even washed it and yet you're painting it? Well, because I'm an idiot. But it really does clean things up. And then when you put your headlights in and you put your grill in, it really kind of showcases them. It's like a backdrop to whatever sits in front of it. Makes it stand out. Believe it or not, before everybody murdered out their trucks, we didn't use black very often except to maybe paint the frame and around the fender wells on the inside. Black was not your primary color to black everything out. Alright, skipping ahead, I obviously started working on the wiring, figured out that some of it was chewed up and not working, so I bypassed a few things just to make a proof of concept. I was able to get this parking light to work. This one, the bulb was bad, In fact, the lens was cracked, so what was left of it I went ahead and super glued back together. But I'm waiting on bulbs for that. And yes, I can run to town. But running to town for me is an hour. It's 30 minutes there and back. And I do have a pro account with O'Reilly's, but they won't deliver this far out, unfortunately. You would think as much as I buy from them, they would. But while I'm waiting on bulb parts, there was no point in kind of continuing on with the electrical until those show up. So in the last episode with Falconstein, I lost the power steering. Let me show you why. So I kind of remember when I was at Pole Barn Garage, Dalton was telling me about this, but I was so preoccupied and frozen that I didn't pay attention. This is split right here, chewed up by rats. Let me see if I can move the light so you can see it. But mostly I think it's leaking right here. Now, yes, I can just go buy another line, but that's money I don't really want to spend. So many things. These are the old Pontiac spark plug wires. See the Pontiac blue that Dalton gave me out of his trash can? I do have new ones. I'll replace those. But I'm going to see if I can't just hose clamp this for now, and then I can always get a replacement hose later. My goal is to see if the power steering even works. Well, the right way to do this is, of course, order a new hose, but I'm just going to split this hose clamp here, which means it'll never want to go back together again. But we're going to see if there's enough of something to bite onto. And if not, then I can always duct tape it. The goal is to just see if I can get it to work without leaking. My guess is no. That's on there, but I doubt it's going to work without leaking. Like, I can clearly see it's going to leak. Well, ignorance is bliss, so we'll put a little bit more fluid in it the next time we go to run it and see what happens. Ah, good old International. The perfect mouse house. I don't know why the animals enjoy the International, but they do. But after the last little run through the snow, the fuel line was laying up against the belt, destroying the belt and the fuel line. So I had to replace that. You guys didn't see it, but I just did it so there wasn't gas all over the place. Not that it would matter, because I brought a VW in here and it spewed gas everywhere. I guess what we should do, I'm not going to test that power steering hose because I know it's going to fail. I guess what we should do is go ahead and clean off these valve covers a little bit and just see what we're working with. I've really got to clean out around these bolt heads because I can't even get a socket on them because they're just packed in with stuff. Still not there. Would you look at that? She's dirty. Man, that is one warm hoodie. And you can get yours at buffsgarage.com. It's really packed in there. Remind me to disinfect my screwdrivers when I'm done. The double wrench trick also works on ratchets. If you've ever heard of me or anyone talk about the double wrench trick, you're just applying a little bit more leverage without going crazy. Oh, whew. A little tappy tap and the double wrench trick. Finally got it. Oh goodness. Whew. She was in there. I'm going to throw those in a pan. Add a little bit of super clean. Maybe that'll help clean them up a little bit. Hit them with some wire brush when we're done. Moment of truth. Let's pull this valve cover and see what lies beneath. Wow, they really like the RTV. If you remember, the distributor cap was RTV'd as well. I assume it was to keep water out. Who really knows? There we go. International. You know, it's not horrible. It's not horrible at all. I mean, other than the dirt that just fell in it. It's not that bad. So the last time we drove this, I noticed we were weeping out of the water pump. Not exactly surprised. I mean, it sat there all that time. So the likelihood of it coming back to life was, I mean, let's be clear, it works. It does pump coolant, but unfortunately, it leaks. Just a little bit. I also have this heater hose that was kind of chewed on, and it would have originally gone to the heater core, but we bypassed that because the heater core was no good. And it was full of rat's mess and everything else too, so I'm sure my pan's where it needs to be. System was a little bit pressurized, that's good. Guess I'll go ahead and pull this heater hose off too and replace it. Eventually we'll put a heater core back in it and some kind of heating system, but I'm not buying something expensive. I'll probably just find something on an old car or something that, or a newer car, it doesn't really matter as long as it fits in there and does the job of moving heated air throughout the cab. Knowing that the whole back of the cab is off and I currently don't even have windows. Woo! Oh yeah, we definitely topped that off with fresh green coolant. And most of it made the bucket. Only a little bit of splash. Unfortunately, I gave away my upper hose. I bought it for the Travel-All. It sat right up there on that shelf. And when the guy bought the Travel-All, I threw it in with it. Not realizing that this one was all chewed up by rats. I may go ahead and just leave it for now until I can get another one. I don't want to split it. I know I had to order the other one. It took a few days, so I don't want to split this one. Let's get this fan off. You know, I just realized to get this off, I'm going to have to get the alternator loosened up. And to do that, I'm going to have to move the battery. And I just don't like where the battery's at anyway. So I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to work on maybe trying to find another home for it. One more delay in inevitable awesomeness. So much more room now. Well, let's see if the fan will come off. I got the bolts out. Maybe it needs a little tappy tap. Seems to have become one with the water pump. There it comes. Slowly. There we go. One clutch fan. I mean, I think it still works. Either way, I'm not replacing it right now. So now I got to get this water pump off. Looks like it's just 4 bolts that holds the front piece on, which is the part we're replacing. And hopefully that's the only place it's leaking. Other than the heater hose that we are going to replace here in about a minute. With a little bit of leverage here, should be able to pop this off. I don't know that this is, whew, I don't know that this is original, but it's been there a long time. Man, that is some good green. And the pump still worked. It's a little corroded, but obviously the seals gave out because it was weeping. So we're just going to clean off our gasket surfaces. Well, clean up everything a little bit. And then put the new one in. Which I did find one. It took a while to get it, but I found one. While I had everything apart, I went ahead and vacuumed up as much as I could. Without taking the engine completely down, there's really only so much cleaning up I can do. So there's going to be bits and pieces of rat mess still found throughout the vehicle. I'd love to pressure wash it, but pressure washing and old cars ends up meaning car don't start at the car wash. So I'm going to be very careful about how I finish cleaning this up. Instead of just painting the valve covers the way they were, making them kind of look original, what I found was somebody came back and painted this engine after they built this car, and the original engine was red, International red. And then somebody painted it like a blue-gray color. And I found that the red was kind of coming through the gray. I thought that was kind of neat. So I cleaned off all of the rat mess and hand lettered this with tractor paint, because, you know, International. And then I shot it with a couple of coats of clear just to seal everything in for now. That'll at least keep it from rusting any further. And of course the oil cap was pretty bad, so I gave it a nice coat of copper just for that pop, and I think it turned out good. So I've got brand new gaskets from O'Reilly's. We're going to put those on. I picked up a new upper hose. That little bugger's expensive. It's almost $100. And then, you know what, the Pontiac wires have been working, but let me see what I got in my pile that might be better than these. I hate to get rid of these legendary garbage wires from Pole Barn Garage, but you know, sometimes you gotta upgrade a little bit. Well, I was getting ready to test the old power steering pump fix here, and I noticed after putting a little fluid in it, I was getting a drip, and sure enough, the end of that high pressure line broke off. I went ahead and got it unhooked from the pump and the steering box, and I'm gonna go have to get a new one, and then we won't have to worry about it anymore. When you can't order the hose that you really need for the power steering, come to O'Reilly's and they'll try to make it for you. If they got the parts, they'll make it for you. Now when I had this at Pole Barn Garage, Dalton went ahead and tried to pull one spark plug, and we knew we weren't going to really be able to get the others out because the spark plug holes were just packed with stuff. And here's one. It doesn't look horrible, but it is, the base is really filthy. I mean, it's a little charred, but it's not horrible, and obviously it ran. But I just happen to have a new set of plugs for it just sitting here. So I'm going to throw the AC Delco R43 in there, and we'll just change all those out. Well, this one took a little more doing, and still pretty charred. Electrode is about gone, but man, this thing was rusted really bad. It was hard to even get the socket on there, and I dug all around it to make sure there was no more debris, which there was some, but it was really rusted. Well, with the new hose that O'Reilly's made me, I can now hook up my power steering pump. Where did I put that? Oh, that's right. I gave it the super clean treatment. Let me go get that. I hit it with some super clean, and it did a pretty good job. I'm gonna go ahead and finish cleaning it up a little bit, maybe throw some paint on it, and then we'll get it back in. Just to give you an idea of how tight things are in here. So this end of the hose has got to go down in there, then goes in the back of the pump. While I'm waiting on the power steering pump to dry, I started looking down into the engine compartment and realized there's not a lot of room. And that's what happens when you stuff an International V8 where a Ford 6-cylinder would have gone. And then they've got the battery just precariously perched right here in the front. And I'm sorry, I just don't like that. Not only is it inconvenient to get to anything, but also there's a lot of engine heat and everything else here. And At the end of the day, it's just inconvenient. Creative at the time that these guys did it, but for me, I think we're gonna have to go with another plan. So, I got a whole bunch of battery cable, and I am going to mount this remotely. Now, the easiest thing to do would be to put it in the cab somewhere, or maybe in the bed, but if I ever do take it down a racetrack or anywhere that has some kind of tech, I don't want to deal with what they're dealing with. So I think there's enough room underneath that I can find a place to mount it underneath. Kind of like the old Chevy pickup trucks, just kind of up in the back there. Let me see what I can find. Well, with the starter right in here, that can be one of our junction points for that main cable, because that's how it was originally. And then for those that wanted to see how this thing was put together, you have the cut together vehicle. I just want to show you, you know, this really was multiple cars. I'm going on, it was at least 2 cars, maybe 3, that have all been patched together. Yeah, there's my floor patch. Watch your head. If I run that cable along this international frame, I should be able to mount a battery somewhere back in here. It's not going to get in the way of anything. The exhaust is on the other side. I can just put it on this side maybe. I don't know. Measured out my battery. And if I give myself 9.5, 10 inches, should be no problem to make this fit. So I've got 11 inches from there. And yeah, it's going to stick out. That's 7.5. But it'll still be tucked under the body. And if I come up with a better solution later, I can always move it or just box it in so it's not as obvious. I think it'll be fine for now. So I got this really well made bracket here, and I think if we can get it bolted into that support, the frame, and then there's a few bolt holes on this side that I can get into, I think that'll be enough to hold it. So I'll work on doing that. I was looking at the passenger side, but now I'm starting to favor the driver's side. So let me see what I got to work with under here. I wondered why the emergency brake didn't work. It just ends. I'll have to fix that later. Now this plating they have on this side, they didn't finish, and they don't have it on the other side. I like where their head's at. So I think what I'm going to do is eventually pull all that down and see if I can't get a bead roller and make my own panels, and then have them just go in with like a nut zert into the frame, and that way I can pull them off anytime I got to do some maintenance, but then it's covered up. But for those of you that wanted to see how the two were mated together, this is of course the international frame, and then up here is the car I showed you on the other side. And you know, it's not horrible, but it's not great. That's how you achieve lift, people. Do a body lift. In this case, a body swap. Look at that. There's their nice, their MIG wire. Here we go, all mounted in. Yeah, I know the rest of it isn't painted, but I figured I better touch it up while I'm putting the box on. I might as well touch it up, and then we can always come back after we power wash this and actually reshoot it black. But for now, it is mounted. It may seem a little low, but it's not going to hit for anything else unless we do some major rock crawling. So I ran the wires from under the hood down along the frame, up and over the transfer case and transmission, zip tied all the way back here to this new tray. At some point I'm going to add a shut-off switch, and I don't know if I'm going to put it on the back like race cars or what, but at some point I'll add that. In the meantime, got new ends on this one, about to put new end on this one, and we'll get the battery in here, cinch it down, and see how it fits. Alright, I got my cables ready. Take this dirty old battery, see if I can't stuff it up in there. It's close. Now I already know what you're saying. You're saying, man, that is really close. And you're not wrong. But once this bracket goes on here, that should not move. But just in case, got a little piece of cardboard. Great thing about all this is I can always move it down a notch, which will give us a little more clearance at the top, but I don't think we're going to need it. There is plenty of room up there, but I may just throw that cardboard up there just in case. Well, that's solid. It ain't going nowhere. Got my protective here just in case, but I'm telling you, that battery ain't moving. Now if I hit something and it squishes it up there, I got bigger problems, but for now this is what we're going to do. Now I mentioned in the last video that I kind of cleaned up the electrical a little bit, but now we're going to take it one step further. I got a lot of dead end wires that don't go anywhere. A lot of this stuff is chewed up. A lot of the stuff under the dash was chewed up. So it's best to just use what I have to and replace everything else. So this is going to our coil. I'm not sure why we did both, but I remember Dalton and I working on it because that's his style of lock. This was going to the tack, but it's not working right now, so I can cut it. But I want to kind of clean the firewall up. Yes, I got a big hole, several holes over here that I need to cover, including that big one down there. But my main goal right now is I've been trimming up this harness that half of it was going over here, half of it was going to this hole, and I'm trying to decide if I want to run it inside this fender or if I want to hide it up here. Now the problem with hiding it up here is it's going to be more exposed to dirt and mud and everything else. Let's be clear, the wires that come through that hole up there go right there anyway, so they're going to be exposed regardless. I'm kind of really wanting to drill a hole and run it here, but maybe for now we'll run it inside and then we can always fix it later. With the wiring kind of thinned out just to what we need, I opted to go ahead and run it inside the fender for now. And even though split loom wasn't available back in the day that this Falcon was built, or Ranchero, or whatever you want to call it, it probably would have been around when they built Falconstein. So I'm going to go ahead and step up the wrapped tape situation and get some split loom. I have a whole pile of it left over from other cars that I've gutted. And I'm thinking, for now, something along these lines. That'll hook those lights in there. I can continue to run the wiring over to the other side, and that includes my starter wire that used to go up and over. I want to eliminate that, so I'm going to run it the long way around. Now yes, I could have drilled a hole through the firewall or even through the floor and just ran it straight to it, but I have the wire, so it's not going to hurt to go ahead and run it all the way around, and this way it'll be pretty much hidden. I'm trying to go for the clean engine bay kind of look, even though it's not clean, and it sure as heck wasn't clean in the past. So I'm going to get rid of this one, and then my coil wire I'm actually going to run down the firewall and then over to the engine and try to minimize its obviousness as much as possible. I'll go ahead and wrap it up in some split loom as well. But I went to the hardware store to find some clamps to hold my split loom up on the firewall, and look what I found. These little guys are for holding pipe or conduit or something, but they're copper, and I really like the copper look. So it'll kind of go with our copper oil cap here, and we can just put a little accent of copper right there. I think that'll look good. We'll do another one over this way. I mean, if you're going to have to see it, you might as well dress it up a little bit. Well, what else can I say, but wiring takes forever. I've spent close to like 3.5, 4 hours on this, but I think I've got a very workable solution for now that looks a lot better and really cleans up all the rat-chewed mess and everything else. Over on that end, you've got where it comes through the firewall, and then I'm running wires down so that I can come to this coil over here. The green one's going to go away. Doesn't do anything anyway, but I eliminated that big mess over there, put it all in conduit with the fancy copper holders, ran it over. That kicks out for the lights through that hole, and then it runs across here, which you can't see from the front, and then it kicks out over here. We got our wiring for our alternator. We've got a new power and ground in case we ever need to jump start somebody, but also it's a good distribution point for adding things later. But this goes and it's grounded right here to the engine where the old ground did. Second one back to the battery. And then that will also be grounded to the frame. And then this goes down to the starter, and then from the starter it's going back to that battery remote location. And then these go to the various components that are needed to run the vehicle. And then of course the starter wire I talked about was just draped across here. It's now ran all the way through. It's down along the frame to the starter. So the main thing to know is you want to have a clean engine compartment without a lot of extra wires just laying everywhere. The best thing to do is just bite the bullet, take the time, cut anything that you're not going to use, and then start routing anything that you are going to use to a position that maybe isn't as obvious. So it can be done, it just takes time and patience, of which I have run out of. So I'm going to call this a day and come back tomorrow and start digging into all the things left, including putting the power steering pump back in after we got our new hose made. And it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go enjoy the lake for a little bit. I thought I'd go ahead and get these rims that I picked up off Marketplace ready to put the tires on. Obviously I've got a replacement tire for the one that's trying to birth puppies on me. But I bought the cheapest wheels I could find on Marketplace that not only had the right bolt pattern, but had the right width. So I wanted to get a 15 by 10 inch, but these are a 15 by 9.5, which is close enough. They got a really cool pattern that would fit very well with the 90s theme of this vehicle. And thanks to lugnutguys.com, he sent me some center caps and new lug nuts. They're gonna look really good once they're done. But here's the problem. These are aluminum rims, and I would love to just polish them up, but there's some kind of a coating on there, and from what I understand, that is a clear coat that has since kind of faded. And yeah, so to start off with, I'm going to go ahead and clean these wheels, and I'm going to be using Super Clean's all-wheel cleaner. This goes on there like a foam, like that. And for these wheels, it's going to be okay to give it a little scrub, but if your wheels are a lot nicer, you might want to just spray it on, give it a quick little wipe with a soft cloth, and hose it off. Now once these clean up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and use this citrus strip. It's a lot safer than, say, normal paint stripper, and it should take that clear coat off the aluminum, which allows me to polish it. I don't even really have to scrub. The dirt's coming off really well. There is that hint of corrosion underneath this clear coat, but even that's starting to wipe off with the Super Clean. But to really get this thing clean, I'm going to have to strip the clear coat off. It almost looks like silver paint. So with that, I'm jumping to the next step. Now if you're messy at all, you're going to want to put on some gloves, and if you're using this in an enclosed space, I suggest wearing a mask. I have the door open, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go ahead and pour this into a different receptacle so that I can get easier access to it. Using a paintbrush, we're just gonna paint it on. Now this isn't as quick as a normal like aircraft style paint remover. This is going to take up to 30 minutes, maybe even a little longer, and you might have to do a second coat to get all of it off. But our goal is just to get the clear coat off, and hopefully it's gentle enough it's not going to damage the aluminum underneath. And then we will come back with an aluminum polish the rim up, make it look all shiny. These will probably support up to 32s, maybe 33s, if I ever decide to do that. So I feel like it was a very inexpensive upgrade. I looked at buying new wheels. They're kind of going the old Henry Ford method, is you can get whatever wheel you want as long as it's in black. And I cannot stand black wheels. And yes, I could always paint them when I got them, but if I'm going to spend $600-700, even $800 on a set of wheels, I'm not going to then paint them. I like stuff that's shiny. These were $200 off Marketplace. I felt like that was a pretty good deal for the size and the bolt pattern, because both of those are hard to find on Marketplace. People don't have 15s anymore, and they sure as heck don't have 10s. So 9 was close enough because it had the right bolt pattern, which is a 5 on 5.5. All right, we'll let that sit. Just to give you a little bit of an idea how well this worked, I am going to take them over to the hose and hose them off, but all of that, you can kind of see it's gray there. That's some kind of coating, whether it was gray paint or clear coat, but this stuff just lifted it right off. And now that that's off, I got to go back in and polish it all up. So citrus strip worked. It's pretty great. I'm gonna hose this off before I burn myself. Back this morning to install this newly refurbished power steering pump. Just cleaned all the grease off of it and shot some satin black on it. So I'm going to reassemble it, put it back on the engine, fill it up, and hope it doesn't leak. Alright, all that work, and the hose fittings were wrong. Now, I can take partial blame for that. I took it to O'Reilly's, and the guy made up the hose for me, which I appreciate greatly, because you can't buy one of these hoses online. I think I already mentioned that. And so he ordered in the ends he thought I needed and made it. This is like $70 some for this hose. Well, the problem is one end is supposed to be smaller than the other, and I think we made both ends the same size. So, while I was headed back to O'Reilly's, knowing that they don't have the parts, I saw a tractor implement place, and I stopped in there, and guess what? They made me the hose. They made me the hose with the correct fitting. I took the pump to make sure that they had the fitting that would work, and then instead of trying to make a huge loop the way it was before, running clear back to the firewall, he put a straight in on for me that'll go down into the steering box and then make a much smaller loop. So I think all in all, this is going to fit a lot better, and I do thank O'Reilly's for at least making the effort, but that money's gone. So make sure you hit up buffsgarage.com, get you some merch. That'll help recoup some of the cost on that. So now that I got this hose in and I know it's good, I can put my pump back in, because I basically had it in already and then had to take it all apart to make that fitting fit. And then we're real close to being able to test this thing. Now at least I have a better handle, because you should always hold your power steering pump by the hose, and it's going to be just fine. I mean, I figured it holds up a couple thousand PSI. It can hold its own weight, right? To me, it just looks like a regular Chevy power steering pump. I don't know what the differences are. But International at this time frame was literally stealing parts from all kinds of manufacturers. So Falconstein really is just a bunch of different car parts, whether it was intentional or otherwise. Maybe at some point we might have to repower this. But the beauty of these engines, even though they don't have a lot of horsepower, I want to say, just a guess, I'm not looking it up right now, but it's like 130 horsepower maybe. It's not a lot. But they put out almost 300 foot-pounds of torque. They take the International name seriously, and it's more like a tractor engine than a car engine. So the engine tops out somewhere around 3,800 RPM. I've seen guys throw small block Chevys in here, and you know, they may have more horsepower, but they sure as heck don't have more torque. And when you're off-roading, you need that low gear torque to get you out of some of those sticky situations. Alright, let me get this hose hooked up and the return line. See how big a mess we make. So this line used to go all the way back here and loop back, and then was split and leaking. So they went ahead and put in a straight one here instead of a 90, which was a great idea, because now it just comes up a little bit and then comes down. It's up out of the way, it's not touching anything, and it sure as heck isn't clear back this way. It'll be good enough to see if it's gonna leak. I almost forgot to put the heater hose back, because we deleted the heater core, because I mean, underneath all this wire, the whole box was just all chewed up. And so I'll figure out something in the future, and I'll probably just put a block off plate on there for now. But I almost forgot to put the hose in, and if I remember correctly, this thing was just zip tied on there with some old zip ties, and I didn't like that. So I routed it down here, I put a hose clamp on it off of the water pump to here. Everything looks much cleaner, and hopefully will work until we get a heater core. Once we do get a heater core, I can just unhook it back here, hook it up to the heater core, and then the other line will run where it needs to go. All right, one more step down. Well, after all that wrenching, there's only one thing left to do. Put this air cleaner on here that I got off of, I think, Amazon. I don't know, it's the cheapest one I could get. The one that came with it was all rotted out. I think this fits the truck better. Car, truck, mullet, I don't know. Wonder how much more air cleaner I can get in there. There we go. I'm gonna have to get a little bit bigger stud in there to reach the top. Hopefully. Oh yeah, that'll clear. That's gonna look good. Looks ridiculous. Perfect. Now looking back to what this engine bay was before, it's looking a whole lot better. Wiring is all cleaned up, painted up a few parts. Got a new remote battery place here. I know I had one bulb that was good. Let's check it. Yep, we got power. So I'll work on the lights, see if I can't get that bulb replaced and working. Work our way around to the back. Oh, we got one working over here. Just need to get this one working. Bulb in there, let's see if it works. Looky there. Now let's throw some headlights in. Yeah, we gotta do the seal. How fun was that? Oh man, it's gonna fit. Well, for you guys already saying that it kind of looks like a Ford Bronco with these Bronco style headlights, you're probably not wrong. But my thought when I got them was it gives that circle look to the rectangle light, and it does kind of look like a Bronco. So we're going to step it up a bit, and I put this piece of aluminum that I found out in the backyard, kind of self-tapered it in there, nice and sturdy. We're going to give it some lights. All right, I got all the wiring wrapped up. Let's see if they work. Oh yeah, they're all working. We'll get the grill kind of put back about where it needs to be. Still haven't decided exactly how I want the grill to be recessed a little more than it is, but I also don't want to mess it up and like do too much modifying to it. I mean, these guys put effort into hand making this grill. Okay, and center it, and it went about, and it really touches that light right there. I don't like that. That's about where it's supposed to go. What do you guys think? I mean, I can't really, in my mind, change their handmade grill. I may later. I may come up with something different in the future. But for now, we got headlights, we got park lights, we've got cool, you know, whatever these clearance lights are, little Bronco Raptor looking lights. I guess we screw it back together. Well, I got this seat in, I got the taillights working, I got this side of the carpet completely tacked down. Finishing up the passenger side, gonna put that seat in. But I wanna make sure it's actually gonna make it to the tire shop tomorrow. which means I should probably fire it up since I kind of redid all the wiring and consolidated everything. I should probably make sure it's going to run. Maybe not leak. I got a new switch, key switch for it, and it's sticky. Like, it wanted to stick on start when I tried to start it, and then it didn't want to shut off, so might just go back to the old one. Well, I'm about to wrap this up and take it out for its car wash and to get that tire swapped, which means we'll go ahead and swap those other wheels over. I have one of them here. I've gotten it cleaned up, but I sure as heck didn't get it polished yet. But you know what, I can polish it after I get the tires on it. But I did get it cleaned up, and it looks like the majority of the clear coat and tarnish is off of it. So, should be good enough to get a tire on it. Oh, that's right. So, Dalton from Pole Barn Garage went ahead and reminded me.
He reminded me to check the transfer case.
And he said flat out, if it doesn't have enough fluid, they just blow up. So rather than replace that, I looked it up on the old internet, and it says I need a GL1 SAE 90 mineral gear oil. Yeah, nobody around here has that. So the optional replacement is this VR1 50 weight oil. I did look it up. It was an acceptable replacement. It's not what the original would have in it. But I'm going to just go ahead and check to make sure it's topped off. And if not, maybe give it a little bit of this just to make sure. If nothing else, we can say we tried. I've crawled under here a couple of times. I never really looked to see where that top off is. That looks like it might be it. Still a lot of mouse nests down here. Hopefully we can knock that loose. Here's a big chunk. Packed in around the exhaust, and I can just see where that's going to go. Ow, a lot of stickers in that. Really packed that one in there. Ow, more stickers. Okay, now let's get a wrench and see if we can't check that diff. It's all the way over here on the passenger side. Let's get the crud off of it. It probably would fit. It's a 5/8 it seems. Pretty close to it. There we go. Have to get a little leverage on it. I'd say that's been there just a couple years. Well, okay, that is the fill port, and fluid just came out of it, so that tells me it's full. Let's just see how much I can get out of this drivetrain before I start spending a whole lot of money on it. Get our new tire, so we get that one mounted up too. Here we go. A lot of junk in that trunk. Tailgate. Whatever. Boy, it's getting real now. There's still a lot of things I want to do. I want to find a new windshield. I want to finish the interior. I want a center console. I want to get a boot for around the shifter because mine was chewed up by rats. I want to see if I can get the original stereo going. That thing was 2-shaft in-dash stereo with a cassette, and it's hard to find them, and when you do, they want a lot of money for them. It'd be cool to have some tunes while I'm cruising around. Gonna have to be loud enough that I can hear it over all the wind. I don't know, let's wash this thing up and see if it's worth a paint job. I can probably do that on the way to the tire shop, or after. I don't know, it's kind of the same distance. I think it's time for a road trip. Need one of these too, but they're spendy. I guess I'm just delaying the inevitable. I need to get this thing on the road. Well, the weather warmed up, but it is windy as all get out. It's not like it's going to cut down on the wind I'm dealing with. Well, it's really windy, and there's remnants of all that mouse nest just blowing everywhere. I kind of expected that. And man, this thing wanders like crazy. After I read all the forums, I don't even believe it's an issue that it's just worn out. I believe that's just how these things are. But we're cruising. I'd like to tell you how fast, but the pedometer's not hooked up, and honestly I haven't tested it anyway, so I wouldn't know if it worked. But I'm almost to the gas station. Grab some gas and hopefully it keeps on going. If not, I might be stranded somewhere. Well, kind of made a little bit of a mess fueling it, and it took about 12-ish gallons, and that's with a gallon or two from this, which I went ahead and topped that off, and that's what you're seeing there. So apparently didn't have much fuel in it, but I don't know what that tank is. It's a little bitty one, so I assume it's like a 12-gallon tank, maybe a 10-gallon tank. It ain't much. And I made sure that my choke is hooked up, and I've adjusted the fast idle screw. Hopefully that helped. Made sure it wasn't the sticky throttle cable here, and I've got plenty of spring on it. There's a double springs there, and I've got another spring if I need it, but that's not sticking. That's not my issue, because I can push all the way back this way and it still high idles. So I can always adjust the timing, but I'm pretty sure, since it ran okay before, that it has a lot to do with that. Once it's started, then it idles down. So it's definitely in this mechanism. So I've adjusted it out a little more, and we'll see how it does. By the way, remember the last time I was supposed to do more with the brakes? I didn't, and they're barely there. There's the wind. Okay, on to the tire store. Well, I made it to Spinners and almost lost my hat, so I've just got it tucked away. These guys are taking off the old, putting on the new ones, and it's got that really bad high idle that just won't go away. Other issues, I never changed the thermostat on this, nor did I flush out the radiator. We just topped it off. So I'm gonna need to do that because it got up about 220, and when I got here, it kind of purged a little bit. So we're gonna let it cool off while these guys change the tires out, and then top it off with some water and see if we can't limp it home. My hat tried to blow away again. Really windy. But on a day like today, and with the engine heat coming through, it's okay. I seem to have fixed the high idle. there was linkage on the side of the carburetor going to the power valve, and it wasn't allowing the throttle linkage to go where it needed to. So gave it a little adjustment. There's several adjustment points on there, but you know me, I just grabbed a pair of pliers and tweaked it a little bit. It's idling much better. It probably still improve, but I got to get a vacuum gauge put on there and see if we can get the best vacuum we can out of it. Right now, after filling the radiator, it's sticking to around 180, 185. No problem. Still going to go ahead and get a thermostat and replace that. Should have done it to begin with. And then I need to save up for a new radiator. Oh yeah, it still don't have turn signals. The wiring's there, the bulbs work. I don't have a turn stop. Need to get one of those. Not building pressure, and or could be thermostat. Well, anyway, after taking it for its maiden voyage, let's get it out of the wind here. I feel like I at least need to get the moss and stuff off the side of it and give it a bath. I'm going to try not to get the interior too wet, but it's probably going to happen because I didn't bring the plastic windows with me, and it doesn't have a window on the back. I mean, it is what it is. So let's get to washing.
Well, I tried to make it Sunday, but I got so damn depressed that I set my sights on Monday. And I got myself undressed. I ain't ready for the altar, but I do agree there's times when a woman sure can be a friend of mine. Well, I keep on thinking about you, Sister Golden Hair Surprise, and I just can't live without you. Can't you see it in my eyes? I've been one poor correspondent. I've been too hard to find, but it doesn't mean you ain't been on my mind. Will you meet me in the middle? Will you meet me in the end? Will you love me just a little, just enough to show you care? Well, I tried to fake it, I don't mind saying, I just can't make it. Well, I keep on thinking about you, Sister Golden Hair Surprise, and I just can't live without you. Can't you see it in my eyes? Now I've it. I don't mind saying I just can't make it.
That's what you want. You want it to be dripping like that. And then you want your back seat to be completely full and collecting right here on your new carpet. That's what you want. I mean, this, no big deal. But puddles, that's good. I went to clean the windshield hoping I could see out of it, and now it's worse than it was. But the main thing is we got the moss off this thing. You can start to see it had a little surface rust underneath. I didn't get all the moss, but I got a lot of it. Didn't want to focus too much spray in this area. Not that it mattered. Still some moss up there on the roof, but I got the majority of it off so we can see what the body's like. It's got a little bit of rust here and around there and back there, but those rockers, they're solid. Fenders look good. Hood is kind of a mess, but it's straight. I'm sure with a lot of work, it could look good again. All in all, I think it cleaned up pretty good for its first bath. Now we can take it to the next step and go get the rest of that moss off, maybe do something with those bars, and eventually let's patch up the holes. But for right now, we'll just keep it a summer-only rig and only wash it when it's warm enough to dry it right back out. So I need to get it home, get some of that water out of it, vacuum up all the dirt that has fallen out on this drive. I need to find a radiator cap. That's priority number one. Gonna order thermostat and a few other things, but I'm really liking it. It's loud, it's windy, it's really slow, but I really like it. Seat's wet. Go figure. So all in all, I'm really glad that I found Falconstein out in the pasture. I'm glad that I was able to nab it for $800, get it out of there, have Dalton and JD help me at Pole Barn Garage get it started, and then finish it up in the last 2 episodes here on Buff's Garage. I think that there's going to be more Falconstein. You guys seem to like it. I'm already ordering parts, so there's going to be more to it. And I'm in talks with some folks on maybe doing something with the body. I don't know. I don't want to rhino line it, but maybe some kind of paint covering to at least make it one consistent color. I don't know. But when you see all these side-by-sides running around, you know, these guys have spent $20, $30, $50,000 on these things. So once they go into debt over it, then they got to spend even more money to lift them, put big tires on them, get big stereos, lots of lights. At the end of the day, I've got $800, some tires, and a few parts. I got probably less than $1,500 in Falconstein at this point. I win. So that was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to go out and jog around. I probably did about 50 miles today in Falconstein, and that's pretty awesome. But it just shows me what I've got left to do. And I think we can make it reliable and able to go out on the road, definitely go off-road. There's an off-road park right over there. And once I deal with the cooling issues, I am there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to like and subscribe, put a comment down below of what you think of Falconstein, and maybe some suggestions on what we do next. Thanks for watching Buff's Garage. I'll see you next time.